Well, the AFL have just had 2 bye weeks back to back, and we thought we would do the same, have a couple of weeks off. Now, I know that's not ideal for our loyal listeners, but I think you'll all understand that the one thing you can rely on with the Variety Hour is our unreliability. But we are back this time. There's a fair bit to get through. This is the Variety Hour podcast. I'm Sergio Paradise, and I'm joined, as always, by radio's hottest hunk candidate, Titus O'Reilly.
Hottest.
You could take that Sam Pang, couldn't you?
Oh, I'm not even on radio.
Oh, but you do the Sam Pang show with Chrissy and Brownie.
Yeah, apart from that, briefly, ever so briefly.
Well, that's probably all you need these days.
No, we're sorry we haven't done the last few weeks. We've both combination of illness and just busyness. I'm currently writing my next book, which I'm almost finished, but it's just all consuming.
Deadlines
Whizzing by.
Oh, publishers and nobody likes that sort of thing.
No, so which is all good. I should add, we're recording this on Tuesday.
It is Tuesday.
I'm on the front bar this Wednesday.
Tomorrow night.
So tune in and watch that.
The best of Titus on the front bar.
The best you'll ever see. It's been an interesting. We're recording.
Has anything happened in footy over this weekend? I just don't know if there's much going on at all.
Well, it seems to be that we've reached a flashpoint in the AFL's war with fans, which seems to be always going on with the crowd behaviour stuff, which sort of blew up again. It's been bubbling away.
Yeah, it has.
There's a lot going in behind this.
I mean, every time you look at it, or I look at it, you see things from about 8 different angles, and not one of them is true or accurate or even meaningful.
Well, I do laugh because some of it, including myself, we all hold contradictory positions on this because, there was a lot about how the security guards, especially at Etihad, but there'd been some ejections from other players, but it seemed Etihad was sort of the centre point of it, were being a bit heavy-handed.
Yeah.
And not heavy-handed in terms of physically, but they were just walking up and down the aisles 3 times a quarter.
Just eyeballing the crowd.
Yeah, the minute anyone sort of said anything too loud, they'd say, quieten down, buddy. And there was a thing with one of the Hawthorn cheer squad members where they told him to calm down, and we had the famous bald-headed flog.
Yeah.
Umpire incident.
It's almost old news now.
Well, that one I always thought, that's sort of what kicked it off before all this. And, there's two. So where I have contradictory thoughts on this is one, a couple of people who have been kicked out and they've gone, I said nothing wrong. I think a lot of us go, I'd love to. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure.
Mate,
So there's this.
You haven't convinced me that you're completely innocent here.
Yeah. So there's this element of, we want people to be able to have the ability to cheer, and we don't want it to be too full on in stopping people. Yeah, like if you did just yell, "You're a bald-headed flog" or "You're a green maggot," I'm kind of like, that's been happening forever. And as Joffa said, we're not at the ballet. So
and Joffa would know.
And Joffa would know. I love he took. I'm not going to a game the week of the bye.
Yeah,
but. Gillen's
got his apology.
Come out and apologised today, not to Joffa, but fan generally. So you had all that going on. So part of me was like, are we standing up for people who probably, if you were sitting next to them, would go, I'm glad that guy got thrown out, which I'm sure is the case in some cases. But then there did seem to be, Marvel seemed to have done a couple of things that just weren't great. One, the amount security were wandering around and staring down people and stuff. And I had a few people tell me who were at the game who are not people who carry on. So it was kind of full on.
Yeah.
And then you saw the Behaviour Awareness Officer vest.
The vests, though. I totally agree on we have contradictory terms and opinions on this, because on one hand, the crackdown that never happened or was never going to be was, you've got to say, it'd be half welcome, because earlier in the season there was too many blokes getting belted inside the ground or outside the ground.
Right. I mean, and last year too, remember? Eddie had the one at Medallion Club last year, and Geelong had some down at Cardinia Park.
And those 2 Richmond supporters who belted blokes outside.
Yeah.
And you go,
well, this is what I'm saying about
down on that. You go, good.
This is where the contradictory thing is. On one hand, I go, well, some of these people who have been kicked out, I bet they haven't said the innocent things that they're claiming. 2, there's been all these fights, so we complain that there's security aren't there quick enough. But then there also seems to be this they've sort of over-egged it at Marvel a bit. But I also think just having behavioural awareness officers.
Exactly.
Just whoever came out with that phrase.
Who was sitting around last week at Marvel Stadium?
They might have had them for longer. I don't know when they started, but
somebody took the photo on the weekend.
Yeah.
But whoever came up and said, I tell you what, here's a good phrase, we'll whack it on the back of a vest and that'll reassure everyone.
But what, like, behavioural awareness, they're just aware of behaviour? Like,
it's such a horrendously stupid phrase.
Yeah.
And to print it on a vest and then...
It plays into, because there's sort of this argument on one hand that this is where I find this debate kind of complex, because on one hand, your security are sort of damned if they do, damned they don't. Like you say, if they're patrolling to stop the fights before they get big or start, everyone's for that, right? But, you know, but then there's this other thing which people have picked up on this. And then I also don't think just because you've bought a ticket means you can go and say anything.
Yeah.
Right? So some of these guys are saying, I said this or say that. Some of them you go, but other people are saying that's not what they said. They said something that, you know, you just because you've bought a ticket doesn't mean you can go in and say anything.
I'm always wary of a bloke with neck tattoos talking about free speech.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's the behavioural awareness officers just tie into this thing, which is another line of this, which is, well, this is PC madness and it's a crackdown on, it's a left-wing agenda, whiwhich I don't think it really is, but, you know, people kind of love to get onto that. Look,
I genuinely think there's just, and this is so typical of the AFL, the basic idea is not a bad one. Let's have a bit more security at the front.
Well, I think a lot of it is in the AFL. It's
a bit safer.
It's Etihad Stadium. It's Marvel Stadium.
But it's just the execution of the thing has been so completely incompetent.
Well, that's right. And that behavioural awareness officers is everything that is bad about what is the supposed left agenda, which is where you just reduce it into it becomes absurd, you know? And so the average punter who might think, yeah, if you say something really racist, you should get kicked out, sees the behavioural awareness fest and just goes, oh, man, really?
Here they come again.
Yeah, this is now getting ridiculous.
I'll tell you what, you got to wear one of those on the front bar tomorrow night.
I was talking to a couple of the producers about stuff, and I'm doing sort of a recap of a bit of the season, but I think they're going to have plenty on that stuff.
Yeah,
we were kind of laughing about that because it is just ridiculous. It is, even if you agree with all they're doing, it just is. Oh, come on, guys.
Yeah.
It's just...
they just lost the plot.
And Gillen, after coming out and saying there wasn't a crackdown, seemed quite embarrassed that it wasn't a crackdown, but Marvel had increased and changed their security arrangements, and he seemed to be in the dark, which is awkward given the AFL, as you and I know, own Marvel Stadium. Yeah. So, but of course...
And the other thing, sorry, about Gillen is it just in the last 24 hours, he just looked a bit perplexed at the fact that nobody believed him.
Yeah.
The entire world, as soon as he came out and said, look, there's been no crackdown, everybody in the football world from club presidents down to the lower spectator just gone, hey, Gillen, bullshit.
Yeah.
And he's gone, really? They don't believe me?
And then he's obviously contacted Marvel.
Yeah.
And they've gone, oh, we have increased the patrolling of aisles to 3 times a quarter.
And so then going, you could have let me know about it. And,
Yeah.
It's just, the execution of the whole thing's just been appalling.
The thing about this, though, is I do feel sorry for Marvel in a way, because I think they changed this to try and stop the brawls.
Yeah.
But the problem is this has all been a terrible communication. This is like a case study in bad comms more than what actually has happened.
Yeah.
If the comms had have come out and they'd have said either very early on or at the start, security has been increased or has changed to be more active in response to brawls, right? Everyone would have gone, fair enough. But it took us 2 weeks into this whole bubbling along thing for anyone to actually link the two in an official sense to publicly come out and say it. So it let 2 weeks of everyone, some of this was just pure hysteria, of which I enjoyed adding to.
Yeah.
But, it was just hysteria. It wasn't as full on a crackdown as everyone made out, but it was just more the uncertainty created.
Exactly.
And it just needed someone to come out and go, there hasn't been an official crackdown. It's about stopping the brawls. It's not about being kicked out. If there are individual cases where someone's been kicked out and they think it's wrong, let us know, because that's probably happens all the time. Like, I mean, and also, have you ever known anyone to be kicked out of a nightclub, a sporting event, anything, and gone, I deserve to be kicked out? Has your mate ever gone? They'll all tell you, I barely had a drink. I was only on my
I'd had 2 beers.
I don't know what. And you go, mate, we were drinking for 5 hours before we got to the ground.
Got there. Well, having been kicked out of a number of nightclubs in my time over the journey, I would have to also say there's not one of those times that I didn't deserve to be kicked out. And it'll be much the same here. I was going to say this is the same thing as you, is that if they'd come at this... whether it's a few weeks ago or even a few months ago or even just last week.
Yeah,
said,
when it first blew up.
We're going to make a few changes and, let's hope we get it right. It may not work perfectly from day one, but we want to stamp out idiots. We're not going to stop you booing or yelling or whatever, but we just want to stamp out idiots. Bear with us. It might take us a couple of weeks to get the mix right. Nobody would have batted an eyelid.
No, if they'd known it was... Because it got painted as a war on... political correctness or political correctness thing, a war on people just saying anything. Yeah. It got tied up with this umpire protection thing because the AFL are trying to stick up for the umpires too. So it got muddled about a few different things. What was amazing is how slow it seemed, how slow the AFL was on the uptick. It reminded me a bit of the good situation, like they just took so long to actually come to a coherent position
and that took them years.
And that came in the middle of this too, the apology. So you suddenly had all this thing about sort of the AFL was saying, we apologise for not sort of stopping fans from booing more or standing up. That kind of tied into this whole issue
this
too.
Is so similar to this in that way, is that the Adam Goods thing, while it was never resolved, I guess you could say it had, from the AFL's point of view, had a bit of resolution put to it in the last couple of weeks. Yeah. But again, much like the crowd behaviour thing, it's happened at someone else has organised it down the track, far beyond when they should have done it.
Yeah, they just didn't.
Just hopeless.
Also, do you think the boss of Marvel is going to sort of... It seemed from afar, and this could just be theatre, but Gil was genuinely angry and that he'd been out making these comments saying... There's been no change. Yeah. And it seemed that Marvel didn't ring him and go, who the AFL own, didn't ring and go, look, I know you just said this, but we actually have made some changes. Yeah. It seems like that didn't happen. So then when Gil finally...
Gil was not happy with Michael Green.
Yeah, he kind of got hung out to dry a bit there.
There might be a CEO of Marvel Stadium available on seek.com fairly shortly.
Well, it would have been funny, the phone call.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to have heard that. Actually, I'd love to hear most of Gil's phone calls lately.
But the other thing is, they did seem to just also... The security did seem to break up a couple of fights before they got worse too. So I don't know what... Like, I feel now, in fairness, and this is where I kind of have... I think in some ways they've gone too far, but I also feel like they're on a hiding to nothing, because now if they say, all right, we're not going to... They've sort of said this, we're not going to patrol as actively because people feel intimidated. We'll watch what happens if the brawl breaks out next week. Yeah. Well, everyone will suddenly say, "Oh, you've pulled back security," and now like they're
on a hiding to nothing. Really.
One thing that I thought was, just as this debate had been terribly had been terribly mismanaged by especially the AFL, and I thought, well, this can't really get worse. Jeff Kennett goes, hang on, wait a second, guys. Yeah, wait on. I've got some thoughts I'd like to share.
I got something to say.
So he's being interviewed on 3AW by Neil Mitchell down in Melbourne here. And he came out and he did the thing of basically saying, I'll read the quote, so I'm not paraphrasing. He said, the concept of having people walking around, and wait for it, and I'm not being racist when I say this.
I'm not being racist, but
when I saw some of the footage, the people who are making judgments while they wear those authoritative coats, I don't know if they're coats or that authoritative, but anyway, are not people who appear to have a great knowledge of our game, and yet they make... And then he goes on to say that these are new arrivals.
Now, that's a great new phrase, isn't it?
I love when people use racist terms that are sort of out of date. It's like when people refer to. I heard this woman refer to recently Greeks and Italians as refos.
Refos.
And I was like,
that's got to be from after World War II.
Yeah, it was.
Well,
and I was
when I was a kid, it was New Australians. I remember my grandparents used to call them because they lived next door to an Italian family, and it was the first. I remember the first time my nan ever had spaghetti. Right?
Right.
Yeah, we grow up on the stuff. The first time she'd had spaghetti, she was probably in her 60s, and they called them New Australians. Yeah. He's a good bloke, Mario, but he's a New Australian.
Well, that's
and
like...
refos.
That was that famous line, the problem with Europe, it's full of New Australians. So, this is the thing you're like... What
happened to WOGs?
Well, that was... Remember, that was the one that got reclaimed by
Nick
Giannopoulos and others too.
Yeah.
But... There's all these phrases too that you just the world moves on, and you got to either keep up or
that's why
you do get branded
as racist. I like new arrivals because I reckon that he's thrown a new one into the mix.
But new arrivals too it's like these Johnny come latelys. He says he's not being racist, but
I reckon half of these blokes are probably born and raised in.
Well, that's what Neil Mitchell pulled him up and said. How do you know they weren't born here?
Yeah.
Now. My view on this, right, is the reason you don't need to... so a few people said on Twitter to me when I did a comment about it, they said, he's just got the guts to say it. How do you, they are all Indian or Pakistani, they've come here. This is the view I was getting on Twitter. And they don't know the game. They don't know, what we're saying. And therefore, that's the problem. And I'm like, well, you're making a lot of assumptions there.
Yeah, you don't know that at all.
You don't know that. But even if, I have never known of any security guard who's ever been hired at the footy of any background who they always look like the most disinterested, completely unable to stop a brawl.
They're not there to act.
It doesn't matter. I've seen them of every race. Yeah. It's not about that so much.
No.
I don't think this is really where the problem's coming from.
No.
The other bit here is I think he's just missed the point completely of the thing. It's unbelievable.
I saw a security guard a couple of years ago, in his coat there leaning, and he's just standing there eating an Eskimo pie while watching the footy. And I'm thinking, there better not be a brawl in the near vicinity because this bloke hasn't finished his ice cream.
Do you think anyone has ever said, I'm not being racist, but... And ever then not said something that's racist?
No, that is one of your great all-time opening phrases.
I'd like to one day in just polite conversation say, look, guys, I'm not being racist, but I think all these different cultures coming from overseas is really improving Australia.
It'd be a good name for a show. I'm not being racist, but...
isn't that Sunrise?
Hosted by Kerry Ann Kennelly.
But look, I just think that was kind of Jeff just waving,
and he hasn't back. The one thing about me, it was one of your all-time great stupid statements by Jeff yesterday. Yeah. But he never backs down, Jeff. He's doubled down on it.
Well, you know what's funny? Whenever someone, it's the thing about then it's the thing where if they get called racist, then they double down because they think if you say something, you've said something racist, or it's this sort of just, it's almost like a benign racism. It's just culturally built into them. They think, well, hang on, I'm not burning crosses and, so they kind of think if you, they sort of they fight it on that regards where it's just like, well, come on.
But the thing about the security guards and all these, the guys who wave the wands when you walk into the MCG and what have you. I mean, if somebody said, look, I'd feel better if we were completely confident that every one of these guys at Etihad Stadium or at the MCG were perfectly well trained, but you only have to go to any of the games and you think, I reckon half of these blokes have never been here before. This is their first day on it.
But they don't provide enough training for, because the reason that they have a bunch of, and it's not about whether they're from their new arrivals, as Jeff calls them, whatever. They usually tend to be people who, and this will change. So, a lot of them might be Indian or Pakistani or different things, but even if they're Australian or whatever, they hire the security numbers like this because they're cheap. They're people that are working very, so it's usually uni students or, anyone, and so they never provide enough training because it costs too much.
Yeah.
Like, and this is I bet most of them are casuals as well. So they're not.
Of course they would be.
Look at the guy down in Blundstone Arena who, when Zeeble and Heath Shaw were going at it on the weekend, tried to come onto the field to break up the fight, and the umpire sort of waved him to save his life.
Mate, you're
mate, you're not allowed.
overstepping the mark.
Yeah, he said you're not
there.
allowed on here.
Yeah.
He actually said to the guy, So you have all
So
these.
maybe we get the umpires to police the security guards.
Well, the real reason they have all the security is because the police are too expensive.
Yeah.
That's the real thing.
Yeah.
Because if it was police wandering up and down the aisle no one would say a word.
Yeah.
But it's
Blokes in blue vests.
God, I tell you what, there's been more than a few games. If I knew how to get thrown out, there's more than a few games I would have liked to have been thrown out on. Craig Barlow wrote in, have you considered becoming a behavioural awareness officer?
Well, I think we are in a funny kind of way.
We all are.
We
It's
all are.
everyone's job to be a behavior. Did you see some people have started printing, you can buy T-shirts that say it and stuff?
Behavioural awareness officer. See, that's a great Australian thing to do.
Just to instantly take the piss.
If the entire Collingwood cheer squad was to wear them this weekend, it'd be just fantastic.
Well, that's my two favourite recent sporting phrases.
Behavioural that'd be a bit of a stretch for a Collingwood T-shirt.
Behavioural awareness officer and elite honesty.
Yes.
Why can these people not speak just normally?
And then they can show it to the guy in the red vest that says zone supervisor.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's like...
Which zone? The Twilight
I bet there's
zone,
someone who's been hired to create vests. So they're just sitting there going, that's...
And again, I'll ask the question, whose idea was it, that phrase, behavioural awareness officer?
Merkin McGurkin, probably not a real name. Does the fact that Carlton supporters use tape across their mouths, this was the protester woman did, she had gaffer tape across her mouth, does the fact that Carlton supporters use tape instead of sewing their mouths shut show an inherent weakness in the culture of the club?
So Merkin's suggesting that,
really go for it.
Yeah, to sew your lips together like those protesters on Manus Island.
Well, I think that is Carlton's problem.
Yeah, not tough enough.
Brendan Avalone wrote in, is the current crackdown on crowd behaviour, 1, a conspiracy to drive up Foxtel subscriptions? Mm-hmm. Yeah. 2, a plot to drive a Victorian club out of existence due to poor attendance numbers? 3, yet another example of poor VFL-AFL management in an unbroken line of examples since approximately 1987, or 4, all of the above?
I think you've summed it up, Brendan.
He's found every
angle.
But his conspiracy theories aren't out there enough. No. They're actually too realistic.
They're a bit... plausible.
I don't think the AFL's competent enough to do a conspiracy.
No, I agree. Most conspiracies you have to discount because you think not everyone is capable of putting this together and keeping it quiet.
No.
And especially not the AFL.
Not everyone has the discipline of Essendon. Chris Seaman wrote, were those caught yelling obscenities at the St Kilda Gold Coast match forced to stay and watch the second half? Liam Ahern wrote in, when will the AFL realise that mid-strength beer is the problem behind fan aggression?
I reckon Liam's had a bee in his bonnet about this for quite some time.
I'm with Liam on this. Mid-strength beer...
What a pointless exercise.
At the footy is the worst.
Yeah.
Because you have to drink gallons of it.
Yeah.
And so it makes you feel bloated and irritated. And at least,
then you've got to go down the stairs to the toilet, then you're liable to bump into another bloke who's had too many mid-strengths.
And start a fight.
And then it's on.
Yeah, everyone's unhappy. No one's happy on mid-strength.
No.
It's get rid of it. El Tigre Del Ridge, probably
That's
again.
Name.
Is it true that the game in China, security are arresting fans outside the ground and bringing them inside? I tell you what, I reckon China, known for its authoritative state, they're kind of looking at the AFL going, God, calm down, a bit heavy-handed, guys. They didn't have these problems in China because, of course, there wasn't a crowd.
I mean, there was a fair few... I mean, people suggest that the AFL experiment in China hasn't worked. But I would suggest that the 2 million people in Hong Kong protesting against the behavioural awareness vest would discount that completely.
John Walsh wrote, as a Melbourne fan, will you use your butler to shout profanity at the players so you won't get in trouble with behavioural officers, or did you use him before anyways?
That's not a bad idea.
That is a good idea. hire people to take you out your frustrations.
Yeah, hey Jeeves, call him a green maggot, will you? You know.
Do you know I haven't noticed any problems at the footy in the long room.
No.
I don't know what everyone's going on about. I mean, old Jeff once at one point didn't have his type done up properly, but apart from that,
That's about as far as it goes.
Yeah. Apart from that, now talking of bad behaviour, Ben Stratton.
He's had a big weekend.
He's going to the tribunal tonight. Has anyone alienated an entire footy fan, all the footy fans, faster than Ben Stratton? Even the AFL took 2 weeks to really build up to this one.
Yeah.
He was. I thought Rampy had sort of set the bar for. We tried to climb up the bar for stupidity by a captain in one game.
Yeah.
We did over 2 in the end, but Stratton just was on going nuts. He not only was he pinching Orazio Fantasia, as Brian Taylor has told us is the correct pronunciation.
Yeah.
But also he tried to stomp on the foot of.
I'm not sure whose foot he stomped.
No, I did know. I had it written down. Now I can't find it. He tried to stomp on another guy's foot, and then he gave the finger to the crowd, all in one game. So the pinching and the...
Was his mistake pinching Fantasia on the back of the arm, on the soft part of the arm? Because that does bruise fairly easily. And that was
you think that's the problem?
Clearly visible. If you'd done it through the jumper, down in the lower back, nobody would ever know.
Well, a few people, Melksham's come out today and said that Stratton pinched him, and I think a few others. It's funny, like there's...
He's got a bit of form.
He must be so disliked by the other players that the cone of players code...
Has gone out the window
with him. Everyone's just going, he's done that before. Yeah, yeah. They all came out and said, he's done it before. And even his own...
Serial pincher.
Yeah. Who pinches, really?
Oh, it's the sort of thing you do to your little brother when you're 8.
So he's off to the tribunal on the stomping and the pinching. He got a fine for the obscene...
He already copped $1,000 for the
gesture. What did you reckon of the whole thing?
Oh, yeah, pretty much... the way everyone else look at it. It was a completely stupid, unnecessary act, and they should ping him for it. I think he'll get 2 weeks tonight.
Yeah, I think...
Or maybe 3. I reckon he might get 2 for the stomp.
I know it's been fined before when it's happened, but I reckon now the way the game is and everything, that they're looking at it and going, it is a bad look.
They're going to have to make an example of him.
Yeah. Hamish wrote in, I pinched my brother endlessly. Am I now led to believe it was wrong? For the record, I used to do it when I was young too. Craig T...
wasn't Hamish McLaughlin, was it?
No. Craig T wrote in, how many times would Ben Stratton have pinched Barry Hall?
Once. And then he would have missed the next 2 games anyway.
That's right. There's a thing in ice hockey where they have an enforcer and they have the fights.
Yeah.
With the idea being, and I'm not saying this necessarily works because there's a lot of concussions in ice hockey, that players on the other side won't attack the stars or do silly things, because if you do, the enforcer comes on and doesn't just
fix you right up.
Really fixes you up, like with a fight, not just a. So that's sort of a different thing. Another one that came out: Eddie Betts and Sydney Stack.
Didn't this blow into a frenzy?
Well, Eddie kicked an amazing goal on the boundary. There was not long to go. It was obviously Adelaide had won the game.
In the last 20 seconds of the game.
And it was a regulation goal for Eddie, but an amazing goal for anyone else.
Yeah.
And then Sydney Stack sort of gave him a high five, or
they laughed together.
They laughed together, and he was sort of like giving him props, as the kids say, for the goal. And I was sort of, I didn't really, when I saw it at the time, it was sort of actually a nice moment, but I wasn't sure how to feel about it. I knew some people would come out and be against it. And my mind was made up when Gary Lyon came out and said he hated it.
Yeah.
So I instantly went, I love it now.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, Well, I must admit, because I watched it live as well, and I thought there's a bit of banter between these two. It wasn't just, one of the brothers going up to the other brother saying...
No, they were both like having fun. And it wasn't...
And then Sydney Stack explained afterwards that he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, he said, look, I'd said to him earlier in the game, hey, Eddie, you ain't going to kick any on me tonight, none of those special goals.
Yeah, and he said, show me your pocket or something.
Yeah, and then Eddie, after he kicked that way, pointed his finger and said, well, there's one for you, brother. Yeah. That's when they both started laughing. And I thought, well, There is
I don't have a
absolutely nothing
problem
wrong
with that. Yeah, like it's
nothing wrong with that. And it also struck me watching it on about the 15th replay, which is one of the things that Foxtel did so well after the game. I thought, you know what this is? Because Sydney Stack had also said after the game, he's still in slight disbelief that he, Sydney, gets to play every week against these blokes.
Yeah, I know.
He grew up idolising.
There was nothing about it. Like, it wasn't like that was anything to do with the result.
No,
and it wasn't anything to do
over.
with Sydney Stack not playing well or playing
not
well.
Putting in or not,
yeah.
You know.
So that's why I didn't. It wasn't like he was willing or he was cheering Eddie on like, I'm really thrilled. He just was like, I thought it was a nice moment. And then I thought, is Gary Lyon ever happy? Is he like, I don't know him. I've never met him.
Yeah.
But he comes across as just miserable.
Well, Gary Lyon, it seemed to me, he's sort of like, I don't even know if Gary Lyon plays golf, but if you were playing golf with Gary Lyon and you hit a hole in one, he wouldn't even go, nice shot. He wouldn't even give you that. And that's how it appeared. He looked churlish about the whole thing. And the other thing about the Eddie and Sydney Stack thing, it appeared to me, look, here's two young blokes who just love playing footy, and they do it better than 99.8% of everybody else in the world.
Yeah.
And they're just having some fun out there.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't they?
And this is the same people that will turn around if something else happened, like Gary, for example, and I'm enjoying using this to bag Gary, and go, there's not enough fun in the game anymore.
Yeah. They're robots.
They're robots. So then the minute, so I loved it. I thought it was great. John Longmire is apparently going to get a huge offer from North Melbourne. Wayne Carey is the source on this, I should say. So take that as you want. Apparently, it's going to be like a multi-million-dollar contract, one of the biggest ever, making the AFL's highest-paid coach
over 5 years.
Yeah, making the highest-paid coach.
1.2 a year.
He apparently had the weekend off, and he was in Melbourne for the Kangaroos' 1999 Premiership reunion. And Glenn Archer was, of course, there, and he's in charge of the five-man selection panel. They asked him...
You wouldn't have wanted to have started a blue at that function, would
no. I wonder if Carey went.
He did go.
He did, right.
I saw him interviewed on the news outside the function.
So it wasn't wives and girlfriends weren't invited?
No, I think it was players only. I think any North Melbourne function now where Wayne Carey's invited, it's players only.
So anyway, they're both saying, Longmire's saying that they didn't speak at all about Archer, and Longmire didn't speak at all about potential roles or anything. But he did have a quote, Longmire, where he did one of those quotes about, as I've said in previous week, I'm not commenting on it, I've said in previous weeks I'm committed for Sydney. Yeah. I just got the sense it wasn't as, from what he said, it wasn't the absolute denial that you would have thought, but
and it helps.
But at the same time, in 2 weeks, he could re-sign with Sydney, or just.
But the fact that Sydney aren't probably flying like they have done for the last 10 years might, help him move over.
It's whether Sydney think they need a change, because then it becomes fortuitous for them, because they don't have to pay him out the rest of his thing. They go, all right, it's a mutual thing, but I'm not sure if that's necessarily. You don't let Longmire's a good coach. You don't necessarily let go of him easy. The other one that's happened is, and these are don't you love a Godfather offer?
Yeah, I love this, the Godfather offer.
What I love is whenever the media use Godfather offer, and they use these with a few of the North ones last year, the idea of a Godfather offer you can't refuse. Yeah. They've all been refused. Like the minute the media call it a Godfather offer, it seems to be, well, that's not going to happen.
If they come out of North Melbourne, it's not the Godfather offer. It's the Sonny Corleone offer who got shot 47 times.
Not the Fredo offer?
By the Tattaglia family.
God, that movie still stands up. I saw it about a couple of weeks ago.
It's on Foxtel about once a month.
Oh, yeah, I watch it every time.
And every time you flick it on, you might have missed the first 20 minutes, but you still watch
You always get something out of it too. Yeah. The other one, though, St Kilda's set to assemble a Godfather offer for Stephen Coniglio from GWS in an audacious bid, it says here, to lure him to Moorabbin. It's a deal meant to be worth $1.4 million per season to make him a Saint for life.
It's nice. It's nice coin for a 20-year-old, isn't it? I mean, Coniglio might be a bit older than that, but
do you think he's going to go? Like St Kilda, is that where you want to?
Well, it all depends what sort of deal he can get out of GWS, and the feeling that how close are they to a flag? You'd have to think, they give themselves a real shot this year, even GWS.
GWS, yeah.
You know? So it all depends. And if he wants the coin, Dylan Shield came down to Essendon for that kind of money.
Yeah, he's enjoying it.
Yeah.
Sam Kerr. So we've also got the Matildas are playing Jamaica.
When's that? That's not for another
tomorrow.
couple of days.
No, tomorrow morning, Wednesday at 5 a.m.
Okay.
Playing Jamaica. And after the last win, 3-2 comeback against Brazil, which was a terrific game. After the unfortunate loss in that against Italy.
Yeah, I watched the Italian game, but I missed it.
I watched the Brazil. I've watched both of them. Brazil and the one tomorrow against Jamaica early starts.
Yeah.
After they came back 3-2, which was an amazing comeback, she said in the post-match interview, she said there was a lot of critics talking about us, but we're back, so suck on that one. And
it's just a uniquely.
Then she said we don't listen to the haters, but she actually came out and posted some examples of her getting a lot of. It was really a lot of homophobic attacks towards her, which was what she was talking about more than just people who doubted their abilities.
It always baffles me. This, I mean, why would you bother? I mean, you can dislike women's soccer, you can dislike Sam Kerr, you can dislike the Matildas, but why would you bother? Why does it bother you?
To the point where you go and write something.
You write something.
Yeah. To that extent.
Yeah, it's I don't get
it. To the person too, like attacking them.
Yeah. And that's why I liked it. She copped a bit of flack, Sam Kerr, saying it was, that sort of reaction was a bit disrespectful to the whole thing. But it just...
I didn't have a problem with it at all.
It struck me as just your classic Australian reaction or retort.
Yeah.
Suck on that one.
Well, it's like when we won the America's Cup. Ben Lexon made a joke to the Americans because they were all so precious about the Cup, to the point where they were so arrogant they'd held it for over 100 years.
Yeah.
They'd screwed it to the ground in New York, right? And so he said, I'm going to get a truck and back over it.
Yeah. And I think and I think Bondi, they turned up at the New York Yacht Club with I think Bondi, I was going to say bought it, but he probably would have swindled it off someone. Like a solid gold wrench to undo the nuts.
Yeah, to undo the nuts. And they bought a boom box and just and played as they went out on the water.
Yeah.
And they'd go past the yacht club. They'd boom out Men at Work's Land Down Under, Come From a Land Down Under at the top.
It's just great.
So they did. So I like it. Nick C agrees with it. He said, should suck on that one be included on Australia's coat of arms.
You're jumping ahead of things, Nick, but it's probably not a bad idea.
Oh, I'm all for it. But speaking of the homophobia and reason Sam Kerr might be a bit testy about this, given the stuff that goes on, Israel Folau, our old friend,
he isn't back down, is he?
I love that. He was on the front page of the Daily Telly in Sydney's major paper yesterday, and about his because he'd done a homophobic rant, which we're about to talk to at church, and I'm like, oh, here he goes, being denied his free speech again with a front page splash, like. The thing I don't get about when people argue about free speech is allowed. It doesn't mean that everyone's not. In response, free speech also means we can say what you said under free speech is ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
It's the bit they really mean. I want to be able to say what I want to say with no consequences.
Yeah, or no blowback from anyone.
Yeah. And it's about governments cracking down. Like rugby union is an employer. It's not the government. The government aren't stopping Israel Folau say whatever he wants. It's a business.
Yeah.
What does he think's going to happen?
And old Izzy. I mean, I totally agree. He can say whatever he likes. I really don't care. But we've got to be able to take the piss out of him for saying it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the trade-off.
Well, if you're going to say incredibly stupid things, then you're going to get told you're stupid. So he said that the devil's trying to instill in this government, these ideas around people wanting to, homosexuality and children wanting to change gender and all this sort of stuff.
That's a sin.
He went off on tap on all of that. He just keeps he keeps doubling down, doesn't he?
He does, but on the other hand, he's trying to sue Rugby Union Australia for for 6 mil or 10 mil, I think he wants.
Yeah, yeah.
They owe him 6, he wants 10.
Yeah.
Probably for his hurt feelings. The whole thing, as you say, is just a business. I mean, you know.
Yeah, it's
purely that. If you say, I defend his right to say whatever he wants in whichever format he wants, whether it's on Twitter or standing in his church or just on a street corner or on a current affair, I don't care.
Yeah.
But he's also got to accept the fact that in return, the rest of the country might go, mate, you're full of it.
Yeah.
Sit down and shut up.
Final listener question. Dan Fisher wrote in, now that it will be played as a standalone tournament in October, do you think Ash Barty is regretting her decision to walk away from a lucrative $5,000 WBBL contract?
So the women's big bash.
She'd be
furious. She could have picked up $5,000. Gee, she'll regret that.
I should add, I had a good question I forgot to read out on after Kennett's comments. Anthony wrote in, any tip on what sort of racist or insensitive remarks I can make to ensure I one day become the president of my football club? That's very true.
If you went back a generation or two, there'd be plenty going around.
Oh, I like how people keep being shocked by these things.
Yeah. You've got to be shocked and outraged by everything.
No, but like, it's the people who complain about everyone gets outraged. They're outraged at the reaction.
Yeah.
Like they're surprised.
Yeah. They're outraged by the outrage. But you can't be outraged unless I'm outraged, and then everyone else is outraged.
I think the funny thing is, like, Twitter amplifies outrage, people getting outraged. But the majority of us, like, Kennett's comments, right, I'm not outraged about them. I'm not sitting around being angry or thinking about them particularly. You just think, what an idiot.
Yeah, and you laugh about it, and then you go...
But you know what I mean? Like, they think everyone's sitting around being outraged by their comments, and there's a minority of people who are genuinely outraged, right? And maybe we should be, but it's too tiring to be outraged all the time.
Yeah,
but the majority of us just go, what a dumb thing to say.
Yeah,
like,
that was dumb.
Which is actually worse, because that's the true silent majority. The majority of Australians just go... They're not particularly left or particularly right. Yeah. They're just going, oh, here we go.
They're not going to march in the streets about it.
It's like, most Australians, I think, react. It's like within your family. You get some uncle who comes over who's a pain in the ass, and everyone just rolls their eyes.
Yeah.
They don't gauge with it, or they just go to the other room.
I don't belt him, Yeah. It'd be like, that's the other thing about Australians. Australians, you would never get 2 million Australians, protesting in the streets like in Hong Kong. But if you did, it would be on for young and old. It would never be a...
The Behaviour Awareness Officers would have their hands full.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, well, it's been good to be back, and here's hoping Serge and I manage to stay out of the clutches of the PC police at Marvel Stadium.
It rarely happens in the lower deck of the MCC members.
Do you think they should dress them at Marvel more in superhero?
Well, I thought that's what they were going to do.
That'd be more fun.
I tell you what, if you were being a smartass and you saw Thor coming towards you, you might pull your head in.
I've just been kicked out by the Avengers.
And look out, here comes Spider-Man. He's up on the roof.
I tell you what, I do want a Behavioural Awareness Officer vest.
Oh yeah.
I don't want a T-shirt just with on it. I want the original.
No,
that's my Halloween. That's my Halloween costume done.
They probably aren't taking phone calls at the moment, but give it a couple of weeks when it dies down. I reckon you might be able to ring someone.
I'd love just a Behavioural Awareness Officer standing at the front of the footy, smoking and yelling abuse at people.
And look out! Here comes the zone supervisor.
Who outranks? If a zone supervisor meets a...
Well, he's red.
And he's blue. I
think red outrates blue.
I'd love a definitive ranking of the vests at Marvel Stadium.
We've only got two. They need to have a few.
I might write a post about all the ones they could have.
Yeah, I think you should.
They should have one at Etihad that just supervises the 4 different types of salt. I'm here to protect the different salts to ensure they're pure.
And there should be another one at Marvel just to point you to another ticket window that isn't open.
I know, that's the thing. They got like behavioural officers wandering around, zone supervisors, but if you want to buy a ticket...
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, no.
Not a chance.
Well, we will see you next week.